Can't take your cowboy boots off, you hick bitch.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Tether Radio podcast, the only podcast keeping you from spinning out into the infinite abyss. This is Daniel, and I'm joined, as always, by my brother and co-host, Joseph.
We've missed you guys.
I know, seriously. I actually kind of had trouble sleeping a little bit because I was just really excited about this episode. So
Because you were so drunk you had to spin.
yeah, right. Oh my god.
So yeah, totally unrelated. I had a little bit of trouble going to sleep last night because there was so much vomit in my hair. Yeah, it was like I was sleeping on my pillow was a wet sponge. It was a little tough to go to sleep.
No, honestly, it was really hard to go to sleep because I couldn't get myself to leave the titty bar.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you, brother, I've been there. Mouse is here on a Saturday night. You know, and, oh my God, you leave there and man, you walk right down the damn street and them little tasty crystal burgers are just yelling your name. Come on in here, boy, and guess what I do?
I get me a nice sack full to take home.
A sack full, and by God, I get one of them big old Dr. Peppers. I drink the whole damn thing in the parking lot. Dude, okay, so Daniel, you mentioned to me this morning that the marathon record had been broken, right?
Yep.
And what's amazing is that it wasn't broken by that much.
I mean, dude, that's a pretty big difference.
By a minute?
A minute, a little, pretty much, a minute and a quarter kind of thing.
So, I mean, this is the point that I'm making here.
Yeah.
These guys are so elite.
Yeah.
Right? And have the ability to pace themselves at such are so precise and have the ability to understand that precision extended over 26.2 miles.
Yeah.
I mean, that is
dude, this
wild.
guy was running
wild.
He was running a little bit over 4.5 minute miles. I just did the calculations.
That's wild. I mean, I don't understand. Is this guy shaped like a wheel?
He's from Kenya, so.
Is this guy? Yeah, he's all legs. He's like a jelly bean with like 6 foot long legs. You know?
Yeah. He's just a heart with legs.
Hey, what was that kid's name in Hook that would grab his legs and roll?
Oh my! I don't know.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, he was like the fat lost boy.
Yeah. That I thought it was
and I mean that in the best way possible. I'm just kidding.
You're gonna get a lot of hate mail, dude. Because they're like, well, most super fat boys are lost. Let's see what happens when I just Google fat lost boy.
I really hope it's like some like fat child standing in the woods or something.
Oh well, yeah. It says, dude. Man, Google's good. Real good.
Their algos are awesome.
It just brings up Hook.
Really?
And by the way...
you just got 5 Amazon banner ads that said order Hook now.
No! The actor's name is Rashawn Hammond, right? The character's name is Thud Butt.
Thud Butt.
Dude, I thought for sure it was Thud Butt that broke the marathon record. Yeah. Sure. I thought Thud Butt just grabbed his
Well, that's a different record, I think. That's the 26.2 mile roll. So.
I think Thud Butt broke the record for, knocking your friends over in a lawn bowling competition.
Lawn bowling.
Well, wasn't that it? Thud Butt, they would like line Thud Butt up and then he'd like roll into their...
Yeah. Which the best part was I'm pretty sure when it was edited, Like I mean, Hook was, it's near and dear to my heart because I loved it as a child, but the editing was pretty shitty in it. So it's basically just like a ball that they painted like Thud Butt.
Yeah, absolutely, dude.
But
oh my God. Thud
yeah,
Butt.
dude.
Well, speaking of editing, and then we'll hop into this really quickly.
Yeah.
The holiday season's right around the corner, whether you like it or. And I'll have to bring this up again so everybody remembers. But man, with Blu-rays and digital streaming and whatever, you can go screen by screen, right? On slow-mo.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to slow-mo the scene when Macaulay Culkin takes a bobsled, or not a bobsled, but a sled and rides down the front staircase and out the door. In Home Alone. I think it's Home Alone.
Really? Is it awesome?
It is absolutely hilarious because it's obviously a woman.
Really?
Like a small, like a petite woman stunt actress or whatever.
Yeah.
And then there's and then you watch it and it's just like him doing, I forget what they call it, ADR or something where they do voiceovers.
Uh-huh.
And he's going, whoa!
Yeah.
And like her mouth is closed, you know what I mean? And it's like literally, it just is clearly a small woman, you know? It's really, really funny.
That's
awesome.
Anyway, there was one other one it's from the end of Nightmare, the original Nightmare on Elm Street, when the mom gets pulled in the little window in the door. She gets pulled back into the house as she's like waving.
Right.
And like, dude, there is a hard cut that it just goes from a human to a doll getting pulled through this window. It's pretty awesome.
Those were the days, man. Those were the days.
Yeah, boy. But
let's get this rocking, man.
Yeah, man. So we're gonna be starting down in the great state of Florida, where Florida man strikes again. The name of this article is Naked Drunken Niceville Man Starts Fire While Baking Cookies on George Foreman Grill.
So where is Nice Bowl, by the way?
I actually don't know. I don't know where Niceville is. You want to look that up while I'm cruising?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
So basically the smoke alarm went off and in this guy's house, because he was trying to, he was naked trying to bake cookies on a George Foreman grill. And he apparently left them unattended and they caught fire. And so the fire department shows up and he answers the door. And when he answers the door, the firefighters are there and they look in and his house is full of smoke, okay? And he just opens the door completely naked and says, "I'm sorry," and then closes the door. Okay. So they're like, what just happened? The police show up. And so he answers the door again, but he leaves the door open and basically like answers the door and walks away kind of thing. And so they said when the police arrived, the man answered the door, left it open, then they walked deeper into the home, and there were several items on fire, okay? So this dude's house is literally just like several fires in his home. So they said since he showed no signs of caring for his safety, officers removed the man from the house. And so he admitted to drinking 2 liters of vodka and smoking marijuana since 9 p.m. and the call came in at midnight. And so they said that he had tried to put the fire out with a couple dry towels, but they caught on fire too, and he was just kind of like, fuck it.
Well, so Niceville is in Destin, close to Destin, okay. So all of this makes sense.
Yeah, it all makes sense, man. But I thought that the mental image of this naked dude answering the door, the police walking in and seeing like shit on fire in his house, and he's just kind of like going about his day kind of thing. Because I mean, I probably would be doing that also if I had 2 liters of vodka and weed, you know.
Dude, I mean, I don't know how you're standing up, man.
After 2 liters, right?
That's
I mean,
a shitload of alcohol.
Lot of booze.
That's a lot. The weed must have been weak.
That mother was trying to get turned.
And did it mention what day of the week this was?
So let's see. It was
because that matters, man.
It was September 13th. So I'm checking the calendar.
If we go back to September 13th,
it was a Thursday. Thursday, man.
Thursdays in Niceville, man. Yeah. He's like, he probably smoked a little bit of weed, and he was like, man, I'm parched.
I could go for a nice stack of toll houses.
I could go to, excuse me, he's like, I could go for a sip of vodka.
What?
I could go for a sip of vodka.
Gee.
I'm kidding. Right? It's when you hear people are like, oh man, let me get some of that vodka. You're like, what fucking planet are you from, man? You're like, it's written on the bottle, and it's like, it's pretty easy to say.
Vodka.
But it's like, whatever. When you're a little kid, and there's always that idiot friend that says biscotti.
Biscotti, yeah.
And you're like,
or Massachusetts. That's my favorite.
Massachusetts.
I had a teacher in middle school that said that shit, and like in middle school it bothered me because I'm like, dude, there is not a T there. I'm just letting you know.
Yeah. There's a subreddit called it's something absurd like that. It's just like people mispronouncing like really simple words.
Yeah.
But
bone apple teeth.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
Yeah, dude, that's like a hardcore meme shout out because people they'll post these really shitty like dinners and then with the hashtag bone apple teeth. It's
bone
pretty awesome.
Bone apple tea, man. Yeah. There was, but do you remember? Man, this was I don't know, like 10 years ago.
Yeah.
One of our aunts had a coworker that was like, y'all ready to go to lunch? And they were like, oh, got a little bit more work to do or whatever. And she was like, okay, because I am varnished.
Yeah, I'm varnished.
What?
How?
I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just like, God damn, let's start here. There are 26 letters in the English fucking alphabet, and you arrange them in certain ways, and those ways have meaning. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It's called a word. What?
Yeah. That's killer,
so
man.
ridiculous. But
hey,
anyway,
speaking of not being educated. Right?
Yeah.
How's that for a segue?
a segue?
A segu. A
segue. How's that for a seg? It's good. It's good. It's a great seg.
But yeah, so you dug up an article about college graduates and poverty.
Yeah. So this article, I mean, the source kind of blows. I actually pulled it down from the New York Post, but as you'll see when you hop on the article in our show notes, originally it was posted on MarketWatch, and MarketWatch just aggregates from a bunch of different sources. So I didn't track the source down. But what I thought was pretty fascinating about this is that there's a considerable number of people with college degrees that are living in poverty, right? Like below the poverty line, which I don't think that in and of itself is that surprising because, you give everybody a tool and they're going to use it in vastly different ways. And, some of the smartest people that that people know hang out in their mom's basement and play Xbox or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So that's not super surprising, but this just got me thinking So the general gist of the article is a college degree, the usefulness of a college degree is being questioned from a couple of different angles, right? Mm-hmm. And it got me thinking because what was it, 2 or 3 weeks ago, we were in a conversation about formal education and just kind of the usefulness of formal education. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago. Maybe it was a little bit longer than that.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But it's interesting because they get into this article and they start talking about differentiating the type of college degree, mm-hmm. right? And not just from field of study, not just differentiating, using field of study, but also differentiating the type of degree in terms of the status mm-hmm. of the issuing school. Mm-hmm. So is it a for-profit education group or is it a non-profit, not-for-profit, right? And so I just started thinking about this and, really I think just wanted to have kind of a general conversation around it, get your opinion. But I am tending to think that, if you look at why college really, like so many people graduate high school and the default is to go to college.
Yeah.
And if
or at least that's what we're told.
That's what we're told.
Yeah.
And it's only increasing, right? So I've been out in LA for about 10 years. And I can remember when I first moved out here, the percentage of people with a college degree in the United States was like below 25%. Uh-huh. You want to Google that real quick and check out what it is? So this is in 10 years, the change, right? And I've looked this up, but I thought it would be cool for you to see it. Mm-hmm. And so, less than a quarter of the people in the United States had a 4-year college degree, and obviously that number shrinks precipitously when you go into master's degrees and doctorates and higher degrees. And so, but if you think about why college really, came around kind of in the beginning, I mean, you went to go study a thing, a certain skill, and come out with that skill, and then be able to apply that skill in a very particular way. Mm-hmm. And so now you've got most colleges, I think, are almost indistinguishable from businesses, right? I mean, the University of and I'll use Southern California, USC, right?
Real quick, so it looks like around between 30 and 40% have a college degree.
That's a massive shift.
Yeah,
a massive fucking shift from below 25%. Mm-hmm. to between 30 and 40, or what did you say, 30 and 40?
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That's a huge number in 10 years.
Yeah.
And so, we'll just use like the University of Southern California. So I did my undergrad work at University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and then did graduate work at the University of Southern California. Mm-hmm. And it's pretty clear. Like I love both schools. Both schools are awesome, but very, very different experiences because the University of Southern California is a private school, right? And so it's pretty clear that those dudes are in the business of just. This makes it sound very cheap. It's not cheap. It's a great school. I loved my time there, but their goal is to push out as many degrees as possible, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because people take out loans to do that, and they are paid by a loan provider, and then they kick out somebody with a master's degree that owes a shitload of money, and USC got their money, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that excuse me, that state schools are in very much the same boat now, right? Where tuition is absurdly expensive. Mm-hmm. The kind of cost benefit, I don't know if it's necessarily there if you were to to look at the opportunity cost of spending 4 years of your life going and getting a degree, right?
Yeah.
Especially in something that's not directly applicable to, a
specific
to a job.
like profession
Very
kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like political science or sociology or whatever.
Or like fine arts kind of stuff.
That's exactly right. Like if you're not going to go and work in art, like don't get a degree in fine art.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't, right? A lot of people get a degree in fine art and then they're like a sales guy for, or sales guy or gal for, Xerox or whatever.
Yeah.
And so what this article talks about is just how dramatically different the ranges of degrees are. If you get a degree, and I think this is we kind of have discussed this for years in college rankings, like an undergrad degree in sociology from Harvard is not the same as an undergrad degree in sociology from North Texas or from ETSU or from Cal State, Dominguez Hills. Like it's just not the same.
Yeah.
And so, truly, if you were a 17, 18, 19-year-old person, I think most college graduates are probably 17 or 18, or excuse me, high school graduates are 17 or 18. Mm-hmm. You are probably better off if you were to kind of pencil out taking on a debt load of, even $20,000, right? Mm-hmm. You're probably better off to go and become an auto mechanic, to go and, become a step into a trade of some sort.
Yeah,
really,
almost getting like a trained in some kind of technical thing.
Absolutely. And I feel like these fields get shit on,
like
within the context of college. But I'm telling you, man, like, I've been working in, you're kind of squarely in the healthcare profession, right? Mm-hmm. And I've been in technology for the past, I wasn't in tech when I first moved out here, but I've been in tech for the past 6 years, 5 years. And, excuse me. And, I can tell you, man, look, $1 is $1 is $1, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, the people that just kick ass and own a restaurant, their money spends the same as somebody who just, kicks ass and builds apps, right?
Yeah.
But I think people are like really, I don't know, like for whatever reason, society weighs one in a different way than the other. And I think that we're just kind of starting to see the pendulum swing back where people are like, the meritocracy matters. What can you do?
Yeah.
Not necessarily, where did you get a degree? Like, what is your hard skill set? And I think as evidence of that, we've seen, companies like Facebook, or actually it wasn't Facebook, it was Google and Apple that have suspended the mandatory degree requirements to work at those companies.
Yeah.
Completely suspended it, right?
Yeah.
So if you are a 12-year-old who like loves you some JavaScript, right? And you or whatever, you just like to program.
Yeah.
And you graduate high school and you're 18 years old and you can wax when it comes to just building algos or whatever. You can go work at one of these companies immediately.
Well, didn't we? I thought we covered something about like in a previous episode about like I think he was like 10 or 12 or something.
No, the Australian. That's what you're talking about, right? The Australian that hacked Apple.
Yeah, or something along those lines. Kind of thing, and basically he exposed some kind of like backdoor thing in some kind of coding or whatever. So and Apple was going to sue him or whatever. And they were like, Apple should actually give him a job. But anyway, so the point is that if you think about these for-profit groups like Phoenix or whatever, Phoenix, like I mean they're I don't know. Let me flick it over to you for some commentary. But my basic feeling is that I think that because the college pipeline has gotten to be the college pipeline has looks very different than it did in years past. Mm-hmm. I think these schools have become like damn near
damn near predatory, you know?
Yeah.
And certainly the for-profit schools.
Yeah.
Because it's like the majority of the people that go and get, degrees from for-profit schools are of a very specific socioeconomic class. They're typically, working parents, right? And it just doesn't. They're just sold like a bridge to nowhere, man.
Yeah.
And so anyway, long story short, there is a massive. This is a deep rabbit hole, but the change that I think is coming in the next, certainly decade, probably next 4 or 5 years, in the way that society generally looks at higher ed. I think it's going to be different. I think state schools are going to continue to like bona fide universities. I say bona fide. I guess what I'm saying is schools that have been around for a while. They're like brick and mortar universities. Like those won't see any let up, I don't think, in attendance. But it's just crazy because you need a degree. Like most places require a degree, right?
Well, and
but then how do you make that make financial sense with you without just being buried under a debt obligation?
Yeah. Well, so and I remember reading an article that I think that you had sent me, and man, this has been. I mean, like, I want to say I was either in pharmacy school or I was finishing up undergrad, and it was basically you were talking about the opportunity cost of going to school, and the margin between a 4-year college graduate and somebody that just, like you said, did like technical training or whatever, it has thinned to the point to where either the the article, and this was, like I said, this was years ago, they were just saying that it's almost the same kind of thing. That it's like, oh, you start working right out of high school as opposed to going to a 4-year college and, incurring debt and all that jazz. Because by the time you look at this person, like 30 years down the road or something like that, basically both of them are at the same, if they saved and paid off their stuff and like all that jazz, they were both at we'll say $1.5 million or something, range or something like that they were supposed to be able to make in that course of time. But it was just like, it was kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of another, the two separate paths that lead to the same thing is basically what they were saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. This is not a conversation about college degrees. I don't think. I think this is a. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and the paradigm has shifted that it's like a 4-year college degree is pretty much currently viewed as a high school diploma was viewed in like the 50s or something. You know what I'm saying?
I do. I think the bigger I do, and I don't disagree that somebody would have like looked at you sideways in like 1947 or 1930 if you're like whatever. I don't have a I don't have a GED or whatever. I dropped out. But I think that this is the bigger conversation here is about financial literacy. Like people not being able to understand. It's not even not being able to understand, because I think the vast majority of people could absolutely vast majority of people could grasp these concepts.
Yeah.
I just don't think that it's like it's talked about. Like, why in high school and middle school for that matter, financial literacy is not focused on, like teaching people simple accounting, man, like what a debit versus a credit is. Like, I truly wonder how many people rake their debit cards across scanners coast to coast.
Yeah.
No, like have put it together that it's called a debit card for a reason.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that a credit card like refers to like the mechanism of the of what this card achieves for you. It offers you credit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The debit card is a direct debit from your account.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's just, and I know that sounds ridiculous, but I mean, we use these things every day and like nobody thinks about it. And so I think the reason that this is really a conversation about financial literacy is that the idea of opportunity cost is something that never crosses anyone's mind. But it's like, it never crosses anyone's mind, man. And, you know, we'll hop on to the next topic here. But, you know, I was thinking about this the other day. And, you know, when people say, don't, you know, do what you love, right?
Yeah.
I think really what, you know, and people kind of poo-poo that idea, and they're like, no, you know, it's not, you got to do something that's valuable. You got to do something that people want, right? Well, the way to do something that's valuable that people want is to do something that you fucking love, because if you love it, you're going to do it a lot, right?
Yeah.
Work is not going to be work. You're going to love doing this thing that you do. And if you work your ass off, and I mean, this is like the unspoken part of this, right?
Yeah.
You have to have the discipline to continue to do this thing. But I mean, pick anything. And if you become absolutely fantastic, like a master of your craft, whether that's a spreadsheet jockey or detailing cars, right?
Yeah.
You will statistically absolutely be able to, you know, rise to the top, or not even rise to the top, rise to an acceptable kind of strata in your field.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
if every time you go and buff a dude's car and you know, detail the car, it's fucking perfect because you love it. You love cars and you love making them look good and you love, or whatever. Like, you are going to make more money than somebody that takes their craft less seriously. Yeah. I mean, it's just, that's just the way it works. That's the way the business works. And so I just think that it's really interesting, you know, if you've got a kid and they love piano or they love drawing or and they're just like really, really into something like that, music, whatever, there's always a way to like you can love music and work your ass off in music. And let's say you started, you know, as a drummer or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, you could move into production. You could move into being a studio musician. You could move into, you know, working for a company like AC Entertainment. You could work, you know, I mean, there's like, so anyway, I just think that that's really interesting because like the way that the world will like crave your skill set is if you love to do it and you become great at it. Yeah. And I think people going to college to get like a degree that they can then leverage into something is total bullshit, because it's like, I mean, you have smart friends. I have some smart friends, and you like chat with these people and they're like, you know, well, I really wanted to get into this, but I got a finance degree and now I'm like, have this shitload of debt. And I work you know, my job is fucking boring. And, you know, I'm like, you know, and then it's no wonder that these people get to be middle aged and they're just falling apart, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, I digress. But I think the bigger conversation is about financial literacy. The bigger conversation is about taking the time to really inspect what you're doing with your time. Yeah. And when you are 18, 19, 20, 21, these can be insanely productive years if you're doing some stuff that you really want to be doing. And if you don't want to be going to college, I think kicking back like childhood and allowing people to be like, you know, grown children that just go and get ripped all day at college and just like piss around for 4 years is really misguided. And also come out with, you know, with a huge debt load in a subject that you can't really leverage is silly. It's just silly.
Yeah. No, I agree, man. And I mean, like, you know, one of the things that kind of jumped out to me the most in regards to your comments on that was just the predatory like lending places. I mean, it's a bit. They run a business. They're trying to get you to take out as much money as possible, kind of thing. And
absolutely.
I mean, when you're 18 years old and somebody's like, oh yeah, dude, just sign right here, and you know, we'll give you $10,000 of spending money each, you know, semester or whatever, you know. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna buy all this shit that I don't need, and I'm gonna go whatever booze, like you said, every night on the strip or whatever. And it's like, and then you get out and you've got a degree in something that it's very hard to apply, to any job, and you've got 100K plus debt, But
absolutely,
it's just
it just doesn't. It doesn't add up. It doesn't add up, and it doesn't.
You're completely right.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I think you're completely right in regards to just being more or just educating in regards of like finance and doing it very early.
Right.
But anyway, well, you wanna cruise on to a little more controversial topic?
Absolutely, bring it on, man. And you're gonna have to lay the groundwork on this subject, because it's kind of obscure.
Yeah, I don't want to go super big into it because like we've kind of been teasing, we've got like an episode that we will have that not really sure exactly how it's going to be structured, but it's going to be diving into conspiracy theories, and
right.
And this fits completely with all of that. So I don't want to hit too hard on it, and I'll probably end up having to get you at least to chime in if you see holes in my my approach. So, but anyway.
Okay.
So, Reddit has officially banned the QAnon subreddits, which were, I believe, it was the subreddit, the Great Awakening. And then they banned that one, and there was a mass movement of all the subscribers to that subreddit to a new one called _Great Awakening. And this comes at a time that it's like, the whole freedom of speech, and a lot of people think that it's threatened at this point, especially considering the fact that all of these platforms and forum hosting websites and stuff like that, it's kind of become apparent that all of them are, or I guess it's become more apparent that all of them are completely in bed with big tech, and like just kind of doing what what might be politically or socially fueled is, or taking actions that would be socially or politically fueled. But anyway, so I pulled this article from The Verge because I think that they were one of the first to break the news of it. I was actually on the Reddit app and got a notification that it had been, because I had been following it a little bit. And so just to give a little background on what QAnon is, so basically it started on 4chan, and they that this person known as Q started posting stuff on 4chan that it was like, inside information from like deep state sources kind of thing. And they claim to basically be an informant kind of thing almost, but it's anonymous. So, but they kind of they were pretty much saying that like all of the political happenings recently in regards to Donald Trump getting elected, and just help me out with I was trying to just come up with this off the top of my head, but I'm struggling. But
with QAnon?
With QAnon, yeah, exactly.
Right. So the general idea is that there's like somebody on the inside, right? Mm-hmm. Like that there's like this that there's like this connection to the Trump administration.
Yeah.
Right. And so like whoever this person within the Trump administration is, like sends signals or whatever to the rest of the people that think that there's like this conspiracy where where strings are being pulled from the inside, right?
Yeah.
And so like you've seen there was one recently that I saw where they were talking about like a tweet, right? They would get like Trump to tweet something at a specific time, a specific thing at a specific time to prove that QAnon was real, right?
Yeah.
That this concept of QAnon was real.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean that's the general idea is that like the deep state. I think the deep state is real. The deep state is actually it's not deep state. That there is manipulation happening at the highest ranks in the government, and there are people on the inside that are manipulating the situation, and I think that's pretty much gets us there. I think.
And basically these conspiracy theories, I mean, they involve like Donald Trump, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton. If you want to look into it a little bit yourself, the in quotation marks scandal known as Pizzagate, that it was like basically there.
Right. Hold on. Let me interrupt you for just a second.
What's up?
So this is the other thing. QAnon says that there is a deep state conspiracy against Trump and the Trump administration.
Yeah,
and Trump supporters.
Yes, yeah, and so it, which conspiracy theories, I find them very interesting, and I think that actually I would almost go as far as to say most conspiracy theories are seeded to some degree in fact,
and it's tough because this is the brilliance of this is why conspiracy theories persist. You can't disprove them. You can't prove them. You can't disprove them.
Yeah, it's honestly, I would almost liken them to statistics. That it's like you can get it to say whatever you want to. It's like this vague. Right. If you take a vague interpretation of something, you can sway it in whatever direction you'd like, kind of thing. But anyway, so it was a huge deal that these subreddits got shut down because everybody has basically, and I say everybody, the members of the subreddit or these subreddits that were banned were basically saying, okay, well, since you decided to ban these subreddits, you're basically saying you're basically giving more credibility to QAnon. Because it's like, if it's not a threat, then what's the problem, kind of thing. And so Reddit, they had a spokesperson from Reddit that was contacted and quoted in this, and they said that they were banned due to repeated violations of the terms of their content policy. And they said that they were basically inciting violence, disseminating personal information, and harassing like users and communities and stuff. And so, but the most interesting part about that is they make these comments, but they don't give any examples, kind of thing. Which I feel like that's kind of necessary for something like this. That it's like, look, this is why we're banning you. I mean, like, do we are we entitled to an explanation? Probably not. But because all they have to say is, hey, you violated our terms and conditions or whatever. And so it was just and at this point they've been chasing around all the users that were part of those communities, and there's another really big Reddit community called the Donald that is only like pro Donald Trump stuff, kind of thing. And a lot of the users started trying to post stuff in that, and the moderators for the Donald were basically having to ban and take down any kind of posts that had a mention of QAnon because they don't want to get banned, kind of thing.
Right.
So it was one of these things that, like, I guess it's an eye-opening experience in regards to how much control big tech has on freedom of speech, and since everybody, I mean, obviously you have the freedom of speech in regards to you can go around and say whatever you want kind of thing, but it's like, okay, when the vast majority of society is saying what they want to on these platforms, like the Facebooks, the Twitters, the Reddits, all this jazz, and it's being basically, for lack of a better word, censored, and I mean, it's just like, it's not, like I said, they never gave any examples of people, like, actually, whatever kinds of posts were responsible for the communities being banned, which I don't know. It was just one of these things that I'm just like, I don't know. I think that I completely agree that it's like, with whatever the user that I quoted earlier, that they were saying, like, oh yeah, if anything, it just gives more credibility to QAnon, But
yeah,
I don't know. What are your thoughts, man?
I think you turned me on to Mastodon the other day, and I've been doing a deep dive on Mastodon. Like, I'm a huge fan of decentralized architecture. I think it's just smart, and we've said this many times before. It really is the kind of battle cry of, like, what thinking people want from the internet now, right? And when I say thinking people, I'm saying people that are concerned with this type of power aggregation, right? And so, like, I don't want to slip into, some kind of I don't know, too deep into the conspiracy theory, because we'll get into that when we do our podcast that's dedicated to it. But I think that we are at a real tipping point in tech where, like, why is it so if you have hundreds of thousands of people that are interested in a QAnon subreddit, do you know how many people were subscribed? I don't know.
It was a lot. Yeah, I don't know. I want to say it was at least close to 100,000. I don't know if it was hundreds of thousands.
If you've got this mass of people, right? And so their goal is to be able to, I would think that their goal is to be able to kind of chat about this conspiracy theory, or this theory, kind of dig in and really understand what's happening, and, like, that's really what they're after. I don't think that it's crazy just to port these communities over to different platforms, right? But if the goal is to have this really high profile subreddit where you can, be a part of the larger Reddit community, then it's like that just doesn't work. But I mean, I just think that, like, the goal of eliminating open dialogue is really, really, really foolish. Like, it's just, you drive people that are already feeling marginalized deeper into this, foxhole that they're in. Yeah. And I just think that it is a way to create, not to create, but to, potentially turn non-extreme behavior into extreme behavior, And so I'm kind of having a hard time understanding why. So let's say, have you ever read the book Circle?
No. Who's it by?
It's a novel. It's not great. No, I don't. But they made a movie with, like, Tom Hanks and Emma Stone or somebody like that.
I remember seeing the previews for the commercial.
Yeah, or for the movie. Yeah. I mean, So the book is a quick read. Like I said, it's not great, but it describes a company called Circle who, spoiler alert, is basically putting surveillance. They're a search engine like Google. I mean, it's a proxy for Google. This entire, they're putting, they're basically extending their technology to the point where they can provide surveillance that will be beneficial to their company around the world, right? In the form of these like little cameras, and everybody's using them and whatever. And so I don't think that it's unrealistic that big tech has taken a turn where this really is all about command and control. This really is all about, these companies being the most powerful companies on the planet, because they've got your data. They've got, they can understand how you're going to behave. We can extrapolate that and say governments are interested in it. Obviously marketers are interested in it. I mean, just a slight aside, there's a company called Nation Builder, right? That provides a platform for people that are running for office. Okay. Yeah. And Nation Builder scrapes publicly available data in the form of voter registries voter registries, in different states, and they kind of provide a platform to be able to do exactly what Cambridge Analytica was doing. Precisely what Cambridge Analytica was doing. And so, the reason that Cambridge Analytica got the shit stick was because like somebody had something against these people, like a vendetta internally. You know what I mean? Some politician. Because it's like, to think that politicians don't run their campaigns just, with a data scientist at the helm is false. That's the way that it works. So my point is that it's silly to me that you've got these companies that have got to have the long run in mind. I mean, the internet's not been around that long. If you look like the real rise of the internet, I mean, we talk about the .com cycle or whatever. That wasn't that long ago. That was 20 years ago. And the internet at scale has really only been around since the mid 90s. And so these companies having, the long run in mind, I think it's really bizarre that they are just being so blatant in how they handle kind of fringy activity that's happening on their platform. Yeah. It seems like instead what they would be doing is instead of squelching out this kind of quote fringy activity, it seems like instead what they would be doing is really pumping the bags on these being platforms for open discussion and inviting as much participation as they possibly can onto their platforms, while behind the scenes figuring out a way to make that participation useful. Yeah. So I can't really understand why. Like Amazon has recently banned a couple of books that were questionable. Yeah. The shit that's going on with Reddit, which by the way, Reddit's run by Condé Nast, and I'm sure if we followed the money up, kind of that pathway, it goes back to some source that would make sense. Yeah. So anyway, I just think that it's really interesting that these companies aren't kind of thinking about the long run a little bit more, or maybe they are. I mean, they're run by very, very smart people, so they're probably thinking about things that I'm not. But then the other thing is, with decentralized architecture, we're going to see in fucking short order people spinning up things like virtual private servers that can house massive numbers of people, and can basically be a QAnon subreddit ephemerally. And I'm telling you, we've mentioned this technology before, and the guy who runs the company is quite a character, and is in many ways an inflammatory dude. Mm-hmm. But there's a company called Urbit, Urbit, that people need to take a look at on this podcast, because it is. It is this guy Curtis Yarvin is at the helm of Urbit, and it's just an absolutely insane tech stack, and really, let me take a step back. Should people who want to get together and discuss QAnon have a public forum to do it? Fucking A, absolutely. Yeah. And should and if you do not want to participate in that, don't. Like this idea that like when you don't like what someone's saying, you cover their mouth. Fuck that. You cover your ears. That's the way it works.
Well, and honestly, I feel like some of this kind of stems back from so I have a real chip on my shoulder about higher education and like just in my opinion, the brainwashing that goes on during it, in regards to
just out of curiosity, to what end though?
What do you mean to what end?
Why? So I'm not going to say that I disagree with you, but I'm not going to say that like if you look at it, like most college campuses are skew liberal for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
But why do you like, to what end? Like why would they brainwash for what purpose?
So and that's the thing is I don't know if I've gotten that far in it that I've I guess started not conspiring but or at least developing a theory in regards to that. But the problem that I have is basically that they create these microcosms on the campuses, and it's about as far from reality as you could possibly be. And like these safe spaces and stuff, that's not how the world functions. And I was always taught that the whole concept of going to college it's a multifaceted thing that is getting you ready to live in the real world kind of thing. That it's preparing you educationally, it's preparing you socially, it's preparing you, in all these different ways, or at least that's the purpose I thought that it was supposed to serve. And so when you see on all these campuses that it's like, and we want to create a safe space so that it's like, everybody feels good and everybody, there's no disagreement. There's, everybody's on the same team and blah, 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 or whatever. It's just so far from reality that I feel like we're doing a disservice to the youth, But and I don't know why are they doing that. I don't know why they're doing that, And so that's But it's just it's one of these things that that's not how the world functions, and so it's just kind of. But I'm obviously that's completely tangential, so. But
true. I mean, it is a slight tangent, but it seems as though that the idea of college, it seems as though, you know what, we should actually totally do some kind of in-depth research with like and put together some defensible numbers on this, like statistics on this. But I would be willing to wager that when college was becoming a thing, right? Mm-hmm. Like in let's say when going to college was a rarity. So like, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, when it was that was again like a thing where you went to go study engineering or finance or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think that the world was just an unbelievably different place, man. Like you were a full grown person at 16 or 17.
Yeah.
Like that was, you were like, working in some capacity at 13, 14 and 15, and so,
do you think that's kind of, but the kind of the reasoning behind that is because life expectancy was shorter?
Yeah, it could be, but I don't know why society has just like gotten so into this like extension of childhood. Yeah. Like it's so fucking weird if you really think about it. It is so odd.
But our dad talks about that all the time, that it was, their generation never wanted to grow up.
Well, okay, so I've got a slight tangent, and then we'll truck on here, right? Yeah. But like let me just finish this comment about college. Comment about college was that you would go, like, the world was a brutal place. You grew up very quickly. When you went off to college, you literally packed your bags up. You went off to college. You learned a skill. And this was like a big, because your family was probably focusing a lot of their financial horsepower to make this happen for you. And you went and you learned a skill that was applicable, and you did apprenticeships and internships, and it seems like that was like the way to go. That was the thing, there was a methodology. There was a method to the madness, right?
Yeah.
And then, you could have college Republicans and college Democrats that would, have debate, and the debate was like, look, we respect the fact that everybody intellectually is kind of at the same level, so let's use logic to try to defend these political positions that we've inhabited, right? Or that we're in.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that's not the way that it is anymore, man. And I think this comes back to a lot of the state colleges. This episode's like all about college, but state colleges getting, funding from taxpayers and whatever, and just like, again, like some of the social issues that people are wrestling with, like things have really changed on the college side of things.
Yeah.
And so I don't even know where I was going with that, but just a quick thing before we step into the next article here. So a buddy of mine had a really interesting theory on teen angst, and I just wanted to share it really quickly.
All right.
Like, it's interesting that teenagers hit puberty so early, right? And so, like, from a biological standpoint, like, that is you being an adult, like, evolutionarily speaking, right?
Yeah.
But society does not reflect that station at all, right? Like, you are the way that society says is you are like a child with the ability to reproduce. But that is not the way that biology clearly, that's why these things happen, right? Is for like an organism to get to sexual maturity, and then the organism to be able to like perpetuate the species, right? And so it's just really interesting because his theory was that teen angst, wouldn't it be interesting if like teen angst, there's got to be a study that's been done on this, but if teen angst was directly attributed to this wrestling of where people are evolutionarily speaking, right? Juxtaposed against the place that society forces you to be in, right? From a social standpoint. So like when kids are like, I'm an adult, let me listen to my music or whatever. Dude, it's not untrue.
Yeah.
It's really not untrue. I mean, they're like, if like when cave people were 13, they were probably like getting it on and having kids. I'm not saying that's right. Yeah. I'm simply saying that wouldn't it be interesting if teen angst, like the explanation for teen angst is the fact that your biology is saying you're an adult, right?
Yeah.
But society is saying no, you're not.
Yeah.
And like that's where that twisted kind of confusion comes from. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting.
Yeah, no, and honestly, it is like it's a deeper seated, literally like a primitive instinct kind of thing.
Yeah, totally.
But that is a pretty
so pardon the pun, but let's truck on. We were talking a little bit about big tech. So this article comes from a website called BGR, and it's discussing some of the extreme measures that Amazon delivery drivers have to go to get their deliveries going, right? To get their deliveries on. And so one of the examples that they use is that this, people have had to like pee in bottles to actually that they can make it. Yeah, absolutely. And so they also discuss in this article the fact that this guy had slammed his hand in the door of his truck, right? And I mean had really injured his hand. He thought he could like see the bone in his hand, according to this article, right? And he calls his dispatcher, and the dispatcher's first question is where are you with your deliveries, right?
Yeah.
And tries to talk this guy into continuing his delivery route.
Yeah.
And so it's, this article's fascinating. We're seeing a lot of heat around Bezos and Amazon right now.
Yeah.
Like, the guy's one of the wealthiest human beings ever on planet Earth, right?
Yeah.
If not is he the wealthiest person on?
I don't know.
now?
Actually, I'll look into that real quick.
Yeah. I mean, it's like some absurd amount of money, like to like $150 billion or something, just absolutely crazy. I mean, Amazon's worth $1 trillion, over $1 trillion, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you're seeing a lot of this dust up right now of like, or a lot of kind of conflict around Amazon, where they're talking about, well, Bezos has hundreds of billions of dollars, but his workers only get paid this menial amount, and they're all stressed out or whatever, and they're peeing in bottles and breaking their hands and being forced to continue delivering. Man, I'm telling you, we are in the middle of witnessing how workforces become automated, like, at scale. 100%. Because what a group like Amazon, the reason they are worth $1 trillion is because of the economics stemming from their lowest and paid employee. I mean, that's just how it works, right?
Yeah.
Like, whoever sweeps the floors at the warehouse, whatever they make contributes in the way the framework that Amazon works to or uses to justify salaries is why they make the money that they make, and the framework that they use to justify delivery schedules and employee happiness or lack thereof or whatever. That's why they're as profitable as they are. And it's so the thing I dig about articles like this, it's like spelling out the rationale and spelling out a pretty clear pathway, I think, for how we get to be a mostly automated workforce. It's going to be crazy, dude. Because automated trucking is right around the corner.
Yeah, Bezos, his net worth, he's 54, net worth $112 billion.
Is he the richest man in the world?
Yes, he is the richest man in the world. Number 2 is Bill Gates with $90 billion, and number 3 is Warren Buffett with $84. So
that is.
I think that's kind of insane that the top 3 are in the U.S.
Man, I'm telling you, the United States is the only place to be when it comes to innovation. Because
you want to hear some crazy shit, dude?
What's up?
The 2018 list was released in March of this year, and the top 20 richest billionaires in the world account for $7.67 trillion. 20 people.
Then the world economy is only. 74 trillion.
Yeah. I mean, they literally make up like 10%.
Aggregation, man. Aggregation.
That is absolutely mind-boggling to me. But
yeah, it's super wild.
Or you could say another bone apple teeth comment. Man, that is totally mind-boggling.
It literally bottles the mind.
It bottles my mind. But
it does bottles my mind. Okay, so we mentioned a little bit earlier, you are a healthcare professional. So tell us about the next topic here. This was a really interesting one, man. I was digging this.
Yeah, so with the rise of the super wide use of antibacterial like soaps and like hand sanitizers and stuff like that, we are exposing bacteria to an insane amount of antibacterials, and so with exposure comes resistance, kind of thing. And there was an article from Gizmodo that I pulled, and it's called "A Common Antidepressant Might Help Bacteria Become Superbugs." And I was like, interesting, because as soon as I saw the photo, I knew what antidepressant it is. And so
Which one?
Yeah, it's Prozac, or the generic fluoxetine. And so it's an SSRI. So basically, the way that it would work is you have serotonin receptors in your body, and you normally have a certain level of serotonin, which is a neurotransmitter. And what this does is it's released, and then it's taken back up into like cells, and basically that's the cycle kind of thing. Well, this is a serotonin reuptake inhibitor. So instead of the cell like bringing it back in and reducing the concentration outside to a point to where it would be lower than a normal person kind of thing.
Okay.
Then it allows this drug blocks that, so it allows the concentration to not dip under normal kind of thing, or what would be considered normal for you depend whatever type of person you are kind of thing or whatever. And so anyway, small aside. Well, an interesting thing, side note, and I get to fluoxetine, is the fact that they actually found out that it can also it has antibacterial properties to it. And so this is really cool, because we're in healthcare, we're always looking for new novel antibacterials and antibiotics and all that stuff, because we're constantly finding we're fighting resistance. And so what they've found out though is the way your body eliminates fluoxetine or Prozac, it up to 10% is excreted in urine, and it's excreted as fluoxetine, not a metabolite. And so you've got this 10% of this medication that everybody's heard of Prozac. It has been around for an insane amount of time. I mean, I think it was like, I think it was super, it came out maybe in like the late 70s or 80s or early 80s or something like that.
Okay.
But I don't really know the history, so I don't know how accurate that is. But it's been around a very long time. Well, so what they found is that they have found in sewers that there's some in certain areas, I guess more like in cities and stuff, that you've got a high population density kind of thing, that bacteria is being exposed to that, and it's getting resistance to other antibiotics. Like one of the ones that was named in the article was amoxicillin. So in the penicillin family of antibiotics, which everybody has heard of that because it is used for a vast array of reasons kind of thing. And so this group that was studying this took E. coli and basically exposed it to fluoxetine, and then put it in a petri dish and exposed it to these different antibiotics. And they found that like how it normally works is you expose bacteria to an antibiotic, and it is going to kill the vast majority kind of thing, but then there's always that chance for a couple colonies kind of thing to randomly have some kind of mutation in their DNA or genome or whatever, that it would create antibiotic resistance. And so, which this is like the first article that they've said that has really shown that this is a possibility kind of thing. And so it just opens a crazy can of worms, I guess, in regards to having to watch, like, I mean, basically having to redirect and put people on other medications that might not be excreted in concentrations that would be able to, cause bacteria to become like antibiotic like resistant. So it was just it was a really neat article, to be honest, and obviously we're gonna post in the show notes and stuff, and you can do a deeper dive if you want to. But it's just one of the many ways that they're in the healthcare community is trying to battle antibiotic resistance, man. Because I mean,
how many of these ticking time bombs are out there? Because I just feel like we don't know shit about really what we put in our bodies, what we medicate ourselves with. Like we really like second, third, and fourth order, orders of taking it. Like we have no clue,
Yeah. It's, I mean, dude, the thing is we don't know. And I mean, like, what one of the, because, dude, medicine, that's why they call it a practice, It's not perfected by any stretch of the imagination. And I mean, dude, a lot of the time, I remember there was a I think it was a diabetic drug that recently came out. And basically what happened is it caused you to excrete, or I guess urinate, sugar, like, so your body would not break down the sugar into like glucose and stuff. Well, what ended up happening was people ended up getting an insane number of urinary tract infections. Because I mean, they're literally pissing out like bug food, And so, but the thing is the drug was on the market for, I think the drug's still on the market, but now, it was on the market for like six months to a year before they ended up having to like, you end up having enough people on it to create a study, So, I mean, some of this shit pops up and it gets fast-tracked through the FDA, and they don't really know exactly what the long-term effects of it are, Right. I mean, like, the vast majority, I would say they do. It's normally at least studied, I want to say, like 6 to 10 years kind of thing. But I mean, dude, a lot of this shit just gets fast-tracked, promoted, whatever, lobbied, and put out there. And then it's like, oh, shit, we just realized that, you're gonna be able to maintain an erection, but your like left leg is gonna drop off after 5 years, or some weird shit like that. So I don't know, man. I would coming from a pharmacist, man, just know that everything you put into your body, it affects your body. So
yeah, no doubt. But yeah. Well, so trucking on here. And I'm being cognizant of the time because I know we're coming up on it. Yeah, but I wanted to get through this one really quickly because this is this article is so bizarre to me. This thing that has happened in Dallas is so bizarre to me. Mm-hmm. I really wanted to cover it this week.
Yeah, dude.
So there was a guy named Botham Jean, right? Mm-hmm. Who a black guy who was from the Caribbean, was from St. Lucia. I'm sorry, my neighbor's obviously revving his engine up. And he worked for Deloitte, I think, as a risk analyst. Okay, smart dude, came from the Caribbean, went to Harding University in Arkansas. It's a small Christian school in Arkansas, and was working as a risk analyst for a big firm, and one of the biggest. And was in his apartment in Dallas, and an off-duty Dallas police officer walks into his apartment thinking it's hers, okay? Draws her service weapon, shoots this fucking guy and kills him, okay?
Yeah.
So she thinks she is in her apartment and that there is an intruder in her apartment, and she walks into his apartment and kills him, right? Now, Daniel, you and I were talking a little bit earlier, and you're like, how the hell could that happen? And
Yeah.
if there are other people that have lived in apartments for years, it is true that a lot of these apartment complexes look the same. I live in a building in downtown Los Angeles that was an old bank and has been converted to these like loft apartments or whatever, whatever the hipsters are living in. And I have come home from a bar or something, and somebody has pushed the wrong button in the elevator, and I've gone to exactly where my apartment is on a different floor.
Hey, can you repeat that last part? Sorry, you cut out for a second.
Yes.
Sorry.
So I've gotten off when I've come home before. I have pushed the wrong elevator button, or somebody has pushed the wrong a button before they got off inadvertently or whatever, and I've gone to the wrong floor and tried to stick my key in the wrong door, right? And this has happened once. It's not like it happens a lot, but it's happened once since I've been here, so I can understand how this could happen, right? But the crazy thing to me is that this is like, sure, tragic mistake or whatever, but the fucking book should be thrown at this person. You know what I mean? Like, you walk into someone else's house and fucking kill them.
Yes.
I mean, that is like, it's just so incensing to me as somebody that, I value my personal space. I just can't, this is like, it's just such a bizarre situation. But the reason that I posted this article and wanted to chat briefly about this article is because so we don't know if this person, by the way, it was a white woman, right? Female officer. Amber Geiger or something like that.
Yeah.
So we don't know if she, after, I read a couple of articles. I didn't understand whether or not she was still in uniform. I don't know if she had a long day, got off on the wrong floor, if she had had a couple of drinks. I don't know. I have no idea, what the kind of circumstances were around this. But what was odd is that then this article comes out that is discussing the fact that cops found weed in this guy's apartment, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, so I started doing some digging, and I think I don't really have a strong opinion on this just yet, because it's like such a multifaceted issue. I feel like I know the way I'm going to go on it, but I still just want to read a lot more about it. But this is just such a bizarre and to me just a bizarre thing. Like, I can't imagine that editors at these newspapers aren't like, why is this relevant? Why would we publish this? You know, like, why this guy was doing everything right. Yeah. Everything right. And honestly, I don't think the crime itself, it doesn't sound racially motivated at all. It just sounds like this woman is a fucking idiot, and made a really, really dumb mistake, and she should absolutely go to jail for as long as they can possibly, put her in jail, in my mind. It's beyond tragic.
Yeah.
But the fact that they print that they went to this guy's apartment and found a teeny amount of weed for personal use is just so absurd. Yeah. That it's hard to wrap your mind around. And so I went back. So this is one example on an extreme, right? But then the other extreme, and I just wanted to kind of present this to you, Daniel, and to the listeners, is just kind of an interesting thing to think about here. I found another article which is on in our show notes that discusses a situation in 2007, I believe, and I think it was in potentially Miami, somewhere in Florida. And there was this lady who was in a carload full of people. They had been out at a couple bars, and cops kind of pulled in behind them, started following them, and they thought, it was in Miami. And they thought that one of the cops thought that these people that were in the car were gonna ram them with the car for some reason. They end up shooting 27 shots into this car. Okay. And killing the two black men that were in the front seat and wounding this lady that's in the back seat. And during her trial, they get into the fact that she was a felon and that she was, and they use this to discredit this person. And then, discredit her testimony. And then when the article was released, this lady was actually back in jail for like check fraud, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's one of these things where, you read this article, and the one about the Miami-Dade situation was from Vice. And you read this article, and they're talking about the police, there's a burglary, and the police followed this car, and the car ran a red light, and so then they, pulled the car over, and the car pulled into a dead end street, and then that's when they started approaching the vehicle. And so it just sounds like a bunch of just bizarre, kind of tragic, serendipitous things lined up for this thing to unfold. But it's like it really is just incredibly interesting to me that there isn't a mechanism in law and as an extension of like the prosecutor's canon or the defense attorney's canon, the canon of law around a circumstance like this, that there isn't just, that there aren't some hard and fast rules to try to keep, a situation like this kind of in a vacuum. You know what I mean? Because it's just like in the situation with the lady in Miami, I mean, it's absurd, dude. People lost their lives. They weren't up to anything. Yeah. And they were in a shitty part of town. They had records, and because of that, the cops were completely, exonerated of this thing. Right? And it still sounds totally bizarre that they have 27 shots, man. Like, what? That's a lot of rounds, man.
Yeah, dude.
And so anyway, my point is that, on one hand, you've got this Botham Jean thing, which is just so open and shut. Like, whoever this woman is obviously needs to lose as much as she possibly can for making a mistake like this that ended somebody's life, you know? Yeah. But then on the other side of it, you've got people whose past behavior very well may have influenced the situation and their credibility, in the current situation that they're in. Yeah. And so, should be considered. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there because I just thought that it was absolutely offensive in my mind that this guy, that anyone would let anything be printed, like a small amount of weed being found in this guy's apartment, is even remotely relevant to the fact that somebody else came into his apartment and fucking murdered him. Like, that is so beyond reproach, man. Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there because it was just a crazy, crazy situation that's unfolding. And let's I know we're closing in here on the end of this thing, but would love to get a little commentary from you.
Yeah, dude. Well, I mean, no kidding. I completely agree that it seems like this would go without being said, but I mean, if it doesn't have any relevance to the actual case being discussed kind of thing, then obviously there's an ulterior motive kind of, you know what I'm saying? Which would be, like you said, smearing the victim or whatever, and just basically discrediting the victim to the point of allowing, whatever, whoever the other person is, or I guess obviously in this case it's police departments, but yeah, just discrediting the victim to the point to where either the police department just gets a smack on the wrist or something like that, or just completely gets let off, with nothing. And so, like you said, all of this shit should be looked at like it's in a vacuum, but that's not the world that we live in. And it sucks that it's not. And I don't understand how people. I mean, surely to God, like the judges presiding over this, it's like, well, what is the fucking relevance, you know? I mean, like you said, okay, it seems pretty cut and dry. Woman goes into the wrong apartment, shoots this dude because she thought he was in her apartment, but that's not the case. It doesn't matter if he's if he's planning on whatever murdering his mother the next day, or you know, which kind of gets back to like the almost like thought crime shit that we were talking about. Anyway, total tangent. But no, I mean, it's one of these things that it's like the only thing that should be addressed is the shit that is completely relevant to the case right then.
And,
you know?
and I'm sure there are tomes written on this. You know, like stacks of legal opinion. Yeah. But I think from my angle, it is bizarre that, you know, that the role of the editor, man. I mean, it's just like, holy crap, everything's clickbait.
Yeah.
Everything is clickbait.
Yeah.
And it's no wonder that, and this is like a really inflammatory thing to kind of end with here, but it's no wonder that news, that people aren't willing to pay for news. It's in this crazy death spiral where it's like, you know, people don't want to pay because it's like all clickbait and kind of all shitty and all opinion and whatever, and there's not like long form, you know, valuable debate happening. But then to get people to kind of patronize the site, you've got to, you know, appeal to, you know, their what presumably they want, which is like this, you know, clickbaity stuff. But then the articles suck, and it's just like, you know, I just can't imagine that coming across somebody's desk and them green lighting, you know, something, printing an article like this on this dude. And, you know, frankly, man, like, you know, I know there's been a little bit of discussion about libel laws, ramping up a little bit and allowing, you know, kind of a more open system for suing for libel and slander. And honestly, like, I don't know that it's a bad idea, because I think that you know, and we can get into this in another time, but I mean, you know, it's like, what did you hear when, and I have like really, really mixed opinions about this, but what did you hear with like Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown and like all this stuff? I mean, it's just like a bunch of shit that didn't matter that was thrown into the situation, right? Like, now, was it relevant that like Michael Brown had like just damn near robbed a convenience store? Like, yeah, that is relevant to that case. Like, was it relevant that Trayvon Martin, you know, had like, you know, weed in his system or whatever the crazy shit they were saying on that? Like, yeah, sure, that might be relevant, you know. But in this situation, like that the guy had like weed in his apartment, like what are you talking about? Like in this situation in Miami where, you know, this lady had been like arrested for ecstasy in the past, that has nothing to do with the fact that they filled her car with 27 rounds. You know, so it's just, I'm, you know, I have really, really mixed feelings about this, but, man, I'm telling you, it was just a really, really bizarre thing in the news that I wanted to bring up, and it's a inflammatory, you know, crazy, crazy topic, and would love to hear the opinions of those that are out there that listen to the Tether Radio podcast. So we are up to the time here to kind of shut this episode 15 down. And I wanted to remind everybody that we would love to hear from you, whether you love us, hate us, have an opinion, would like to see something featured. You can write us at tetherradio@gmail.com. That's TETHERRADIO@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter at @tether_radio. You can find us on Instagram at the same handle at @tether_radio. And we are, of course, on Zuckerberg's Facebook at Tether Radio, all one word. This has been an awesome time here to spend with you guys. I know we went a little bit over, but we appreciate you lending us your ears for yet another episode of Tether Radio Podcast. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Daniel.
And we will see you next week, our Tether peeps. Take it easy.
Until then, guys,